Outside temperature 6 degrees. The gun's been sitting in the vehicle since a day and a half ago. You can see there's frost becoming on part of them. The Bodyguard is registering in 18, kind of all over the place, but looks like the low is 18.5. The AR is minimum of 13.1 depending where we go, or 11.6 is what we've got now. So, do a function check. You might be able to see the frost cabinet. Slides just fine. Trigger pulls just fine. On the Bodyguard, see the frost. They both have been done with FrogLube properly. The AR about 4 or 5 times. The Bodyguard, I think twice, is the FrogLube, where you do the whole heating process and then wipe it off and assemble it individual parts. Like I say, no problems here. No problems here. Seems to be working just fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat it to approximately 120 degrees, maybe a little more, and then put the FrogLube on improperly. What we're going to do is put the paste on everything, and then instead of wiping it off, we're just going to put the gun together. But we're going to put it all together when it's all wet. That way, when it dries into a paste again, it'll be into connecting each other, possibly. And then we're going to put it back in the vehicle. It's only supposed to get up to about 19 degrees today, but we're going to leave it in there till it gets down to in the teens, the metal gets in the teens, and then we'll hopefully take it out and shoot it, but we'll at least do another function check. So next you'll see is the lubing process. Okay, the FrogLube is 72 degrees and the pieces are significantly more, about 150 to 160 at starting point. Just going to rub our FrogLube all over it. Like I said, we are not going to wipe it off. We're putting way more on than we usually do, just for testing purposes. The gun is an LMT AR15. Bought it last year. It's had, I don't know, maybe 1,000 rounds or so through it. Probably a little more actually. We are putting it together wet. This is not the proper way of doing it. The proper application is you let the individual pieces dry, and then after it's all dried, you wipe it down. So what we're going to do is individually we're going to heat each of these, all this stuff, and we're going to assemble it wet. Bolt carrier is anywhere from 110 to 120. Like I said, we're just going to really lather this stuff on. We might melt it on a little better afterward. But cover this thing up. And like I said, this is improper FrogLubing. A little more. In and out, we want it everywhere. So some people have claimed on the internet and stuff that their guns have frozen up or become glue-like after FrogLube. Get the firing pin. So we're dousing every piece here. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put it all back together. Okay, so you might be able to see that I don't know if you can see that on the camera very well, but we've got globs of frog lube everywhere, completely improperly applied. And we're going to continue on with the other parts here, heating and applying. About 125 degrees. Like I said, we're just going to put a glob of this stuff on here. Sort of, as much as I can get my finger in there. And like I said, I want to emphasize this is improperly doing it. We are not going to fill the barrel for what is hopefully obvious reasons. But yeah, as you might be able to see, there's, like I say, we just got chunks of this stuff in here. Okay, like I said, we're going to get it everywhere here. Heat this up real quick. Didn't take long. That's 175 degrees, and that feels like 175 degrees. Whew, shit. Okay. Now we're going to put this all back together. Like I say, still wet. Still with all kinds of chunks. Okay, now we'll heat the lower. Then we'll snap her all back together before we get to the bodyguard. About 110 degrees. So we're just going to take a glob of this stuff, and if it's going to screw up, I want it to screw up during this test. So come on. Okay, getting it all. As you can see, we've got way too much in here. Can you see that there? Okay. So I'm just going to put that all together here. Like I said, this is still all very wet. Rub it all over this. I'm going to wipe my hands off, and then I'm going to put the gun back together. As you can see, there's chunks of frog lube. Way more than anybody should ever put on a weapon they expect to use in the field. Okay, that's all we're going to do. We're going to leave it, as you can see, it's dried, or drying. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this, and I'm going to wipe off the excess off the outside just because it's getting everywhere. And then I'm going to go put it back in my truck, which is outside, and like I say, I think it's 6 degrees right now. And when it gets to down in the teens, we'll do another video and do a couple of checks on it. Right now I'm going to do the same thing for the Bodyguard, Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 380. Very popular little gun. Chose this because it's metal on metal, as opposed to like a Glock, which has a lot of polymer parts. So Same thing, we're going to do the heating and assembly. Okay, temperatures are 126, 128, 125-ish. Same thing, I see we're gonna just get a glove of it here and run it all over in here. Like I said, we are trying to induce failure on this. FrogLube the heck out of it. Get it all on the rails. Main camera here. Okay. Get it all on this. That's really hot. We're gonna just lube our barrel all up. Can you see what that is? Everything. We're going to get the spring. I mean, so if there's any chance it can seize up, we are going to try to get it to seize up. Okay, now we're going to put this back together as best as I can with as hot as it is. You can see it's got globs of FrogLube in it. Okay, you can see that. Very wet. Like I said, we've got literally FrogLube everywhere right now. We are back together, as you can see, dripping wet with FrogLube. Like I say, I'm going to let it sit. I'm going to wipe off the excess. I'm going to leave as much as I can on the barrel itself, but the handle and everything, I don't feel like it's necessary to wipe all that or have all that. And we'll get back to you in a few hours. Alright, today we're doing supplementary testing on the FrogLube. We're using a LMT that I've had for about a year. Like I say, it's got several hundred rounds, maybe up to 1,000 or so. Out of it, we're going to shoot the Winchester 5.56 55 grain full metal jacket, and just says target rounds. I don't know if you can see that. It says muzzle velocity 3270, energy 1306. So that's what we're using out of that. Got a magazine full of that. Out of the Bodyguard, we're shooting Remington. The Remington UMC 380 auto. 95 grain, just I think it's a flat point. To do our temperature measurements, we're using a Klein Tools IR1000. You can look those specs up if you want. See if we can show this on the camera here. Can you see that? Negative 15 degrees. Seems cold. The magazine is at 9.7 to 10.7 depending on where we're at on the magazine. These were loaded a little later and just rode the back of the truck here to get cold. So what we're going to do first, this has all the FrogLube in it, just wiped it off. What we're going to do, truck said 6 degrees when I got out, so just going to let it pull back. That was very sticky and hard to pull back. Let it go. It is not in battery. There we go. I was able to push it with my fingers. So, like I said, it was not in battery. We're going to try just shooting a round real quick and see how that goes. And the trigger is fully frozen. Will not move. It is on fire. So I'm sorry, that was unsafe. I'm sorry. Let's try this again. First round did fire fine. Like I say, I actually was unsafe. That was my bad. 6 degrees. I'm losing my brain here a little bit. It appears it's fully in battery. So we're going to try another round. Second round seemed to go off fine. Get our thermometer out here. Looks like we're still -6 on the lower. The bolt doesn't seem to be getting any warmer. We're going to shoot 3 more a little slower, or at a slow pace, let you watch that. Okay, that was 3 slow. Still at -6 on the bolt there. Now going to shoot 5 a little faster and see how hot we can get this bolt. That's 5 rounds rapid, or sort of rapid. We're up to -3.6 at this point. Do 5 more. Up to -1.7. So we're gonna safety this and put it off to the side. The Bodyguard, like I say, it was pretty well soaked as well. It's at -8.8, I think was the lowest I saw. Does have, I guess it's round nose in the magazine. Pull it back. It was hard to pull back. Let it go. It appears to be fully in battery. We're going to shoot 1 round. Well, we're going to shoot 1 round in a second. I can't seem to get my gloves in the trigger guard here. Shoot 1 round. Appears to be fully in battery. Going to shoot another one. And 1 more. Appears to be shooting pretty good. You can see the buildup of FrogLube here already, just after 3 shots. It's coming out the sides. Gonna shoot. See, that was 3. Got 3 more in this magazine. We're gonna shoot 3 more. Rapid fire. Didn't quite get the trigger back on that one. You can see that. We've got FrogLube coming out of the orifices here. Can you see that on the camera? Tell me what I need to do here.
Fine.
Good? Alright. Alright, I'm going to put my glove back on. Now what we're going to do is, I'm going to switch magazines out on this Bodyguard. I'm going to shut the slide on an empty gun, insert the magazine. We're going to let that cool off back in its spot. So, got a fully loaded magazine, chamber is empty. We're going to leave all this excess and we'll get back to that in a little bit. Back on the AR, it's been sitting loaded on safe. We're going to put it on fire. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 5 slow shots and see how that works. First shot, nothing to report. There's 5 slow fire. Can you see there's some gumming up going on here? But functioning seems to be fine. We're going to do 5 rapid fire. So it's gumming up, but functioning fine otherwise. So we're going to go back to the Bodyguard. Didn't allow a lot of time to cool, but the barrel is at -1, so that should still be cold enough to get a decent test. Let's see if I can get my, well, I can kind of get my finger in there. 1 round, seems to be fine. Excuse me, I can't get my reset. And it locked back just fine. You can see that FrogLube's moving around a little bit. Gonna go finish off the last of the AR. And on the AR, we're negative 1.4 is the low on the AR right there. Now I'm just gonna shoot these as fast as I can and then see what we can get a reading on. The high was 23.5 actually in the chamber there. So just to recap, it was difficult to pull the bolt back initially, and was hard to get it in battery initially. So after I got it out, pushed it forward, it went almost all the way, over 90% of the way. I tried using the lever here. It didn't seem to touch it. I just pushed it with my finger and it did go all the way into battery. After that, every round functioned flawlessly. I was using a Gen 3 PMag. This is my range mag. It's been used, I don't know, probably 200 or 300 rounds. I don't know if you can see on there or not, there is some FrogLube on the magazine. So, seems to be pretty good other than that. From here, we're going to pack all this up, go home, disassemble, take some pictures, maybe a little bit of video, and then I'm going to be cleaning all this excess FrogLube off. Like I said, this is not the right way to do it, so hold tight for that. Alright, concluding our FrogLube test, you can see how much we'd put in, way more than anybody should ever put in. Obviously, like I said, I don't think we would have had any malfunctions at all had we wiped it off like we're supposed to. In fact, I know we wouldn't. That's what we did when we first got it. I had FrogLubed it properly. You can see there's just FrogLube everywhere. Chunks of it here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it apart. Show you how much is on the bolt here, or the bolt carrier group. Like I say, it's pretty well everywhere. Got a big old chunk right here. Grab me a knife there. Take this apart and see. I don't know if you can see that or not, but quite a bit on that little piece for what it is. Here's our firing pin. Say that was just 30 rounds of that Winchester 5.56. You can see it's pretty dirty, but most of that is FrogLube. Take this apart. Kind of hard to manipulate. Like I said, just doused in FrogLube. Well, throw it on the floor, I guess. You can see that. I don't know if you can see in there or not, but not a lot of FrogLube in there. Most of that worked itself out. This, if you remember right, we had it completely wet when we put it all together, put every piece together. So I don't think you would have a problem if you had just wiped off the excess. Like I said, to reiterate, the only two problems we had were it was hard to pull back initially, and then when I let it go under its own power, it stopped about probably quarter to half inch, no more than a half inch. It was probably closer to a quarter in front of being fully done. I tried to use the assist here. That did not work. I don't think the assist was frozen for some reason. I think it was the FrogLube stuck in the gears here was stopping it from working, but I was able to just hit it with my finger, I think twice, and it went ahead and worked fine. On the pistol, you can see we have an excessive amount of FrogLube in there. All the green is FrogLube, in case you were curious, and out of that we only had one issue, and that was when I went to initially rack the slide, it was very difficult to get started. Some of that could be attributed to I was wearing some heavy-duty leather gloves because, like I said, it was 6 degrees at the time. But other than that, this functioned flawlessly, and So we did a function test before with it properly frog lubed with no issues, and you see that's pretty well stuck on there. I mean, it's hard to even get off with my finger. Once again, ammo used was the Remington UMC 380 95 grain for the 380, and the Winchester 5.56 55 grain full metal jacket target round.